Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the show, Conversations with Karuna. And I have a lovely friend with me today, Jasmine Wallman. And we're going to talk about some amazing stuff, being the best version of yourself. So that's the session topic today. And let me introduce you a bit about Jasmine. Jasmine has been a great friend of mine for some time, and also she's an author, life coach, and is the MD of organization that she's running right now, which is into coaching and wellness as well. She's born in Germany and right now living in India, helping so many people around her and driving her organization. So, welcome, Jasmine, to the show.
Thank you so much. Namaste. Happy day. Good to have you here. Being with you here, it's great. Looking forward now to our conversation.
Awesome, awesome, lovely, Jasmine. I'm so excited to have you here. So, while we start, I would love to know more about your journey, your life. Where did you start from, and how did you come where you are today?
Well, that's a longer story, but considering the time and capacity, I make it very short. So my journey started actually into some trainings, and I did a couple of different trainings. One was sales training, then I did some accountant. So I added another 1 year to the 3 years of learning about the office work, about sales, etc., and then about accountings. And I wanted to learn. I didn't want to really work there as a salesperson, saleswoman for the rest of my life. So after this, I succeeded, and then I went into fashion design. And I was in school learning how to design your own clothes, how to sew the clothes, how to cut them, all of that. So which I also then actually left after 1.5 years, feeling okay, this is enough. And then I did several jobs, from moving houses, shifting cars, um, cleaning offices and houses, doing some office work, etc. And then I actually came back to school, and I did all what I missed actually earlier because of some reasons, because of some circumstances. And so then I started with university. So I studied sports and health in Germany. And then along with that, actually it was almost the same time I went into coaching about NLP, systemic. And so I combined these two things, basically. I combined the sports and fitness, the health aspect, as well as, the physical and the mental. So into the holistic program as it is today. And yes, I have written this book, Change Me. And this is about actually change, what we are speaking today. And actually this came, I think my occupation became of my own experiences in life. But this is how I came to where I am today. So, and yes, I live in India since almost 9 years now. I lived in the US, in Australia, a little bit in between in Germany again, but yeah, since 9 years in India. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So lovely, lovely listening to what you were talking about, Jasmine, and the kind of different things that you've done in your life. Also, tell us a bit about, why did you choose to become an entrepreneur? Why not take up a job or do other things apart from what you're doing?
Well, this is actually, I think, about the sense. So, all these jobs I have done, all the learnings I had and have, I think all of that led into entrepreneurship. So I'm a trained singer, and all of these pieces didn't make sense at this time, but all together, actually, to be an entrepreneur, it really makes sense. So I can utilize whatever I experienced and learned in my life. Now, entrepreneur, I mean, you don't have much of a choice, I think, because either you like to be an employee and you're really good in that, or you are an entrepreneur and you're really good at it. And I think it's more about what you have as a mission. That's one thing, but it's also about what you're most comfortable about. Like when I do career coaching with people who want to do their own business, so I ask them, so why you want to do that? And this is exactly the question. So are you just driven because of some idea you have, or is it really that your talents are lying there and your skills, etc.? And I think this is just how I became an entrepreneur, to realize I'm actually a really, really nice employee as well. I I did all the jobs I was asked for, as long as it made sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it's since past until today, I can't do it. If it doesn't make sense to me, if there's nothing which I see that's really a gain, which is for the better for the entire company, I can't do it. And I mean, honestly, what drives me is I want to see the world in a different way. I think all these people out there have so much potential, and I think there's so less amount of people who really utilize it. Not by purpose, but I think, it's like unintentionally. So they're just living their life, which is like, okay, okay, as we say in India, right? It's okay, okay. It's lukewarm. And I think it's actually a waste of talent and skills, etc. So
चल रहा है सब
that
कुछ.
answers your question. Huh?
We say चल रहा है.
Yes, chal raha hai. Exactly. So just keep going. Mm.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, and I think it's a different ball game altogether when you're an entrepreneur and when you are an employee. But either experiences, whatever choice that we make, help us in the career choices that we picked up. Even entrepreneurial experience, and if somebody goes back to a job, adds a lot of value because they bring in different kinds of skills into the work. And or
Yeah.
even when you've experienced a job and then you start a business, in either ways, I think both sides of the table add a lot of value for any person. So whatever side one is choosing, when we talk about coaching, many a times there are people who come to me to seek coaching when it comes to career, especially people who are in the midlife and they want to move ahead. Many a times they feel that entrepreneurship is the next step for me to look at, but sometimes they don't even realize that the work that they've done from a job, what has got them here will not take them to the next level in entrepreneurship. They'll have to start thinking differently, acquire
Yeah.
different skills, and then build from there. But yes, that experience will help. But I think the skills that are required are very unique in their own way. So, interesting life experience that you've had, Jasmine. That I'm sure the audience is loving it, and they're giving us some comment, talking about the lovely having us both together. You can see Himal is writing about. He feels great about what you're talking. So thank you, Gautam. Thank you, Himal and Sajdev Ramakrishna for adding your comments. We look forward to more comments going forward. Do keep asking more questions, those who are listening, watching live, and we'll be happy to take up those questions over the course of our session as well. So moving further, Jasmine, would I've read Change Me, your book that we're talking about. It's a lovely book, narrated in the form of a story, and
Mm.
talks about how a person can develop wellness, well-being in their lives, and what does it take to move their lives further. What are some things, lifestyle things that they can incorporate? And I really loved that book. So tell us a little more about what inspired you to write that.
Actually, what inspired me was to reach the masses, because, I mean, from my own story, I know how much value we give as coaches to people, because I was on the other side earlier. So, just to give you a little background, so because this job found me, actually, this occupation, so I didn't look out for it. So I really suffered for, I think, for 10 years almost, because I mean, with my background about childhood, so my father never lived with us. I've seen my stepfather on and off, which was the first husband of my mom. I had a sister, eldest sister, and my granny took care of me most of the time because my mom was hardworking. So actually relocated or fled because of politics from Romania to Germany. So, and it was like a lot of working, hard work, for 2 children. Then when I was born, etc. So then my granny died when I was 12. And then 1 year later, my mom died when I was 13. And basically, from one day to another, I was handled like an adult. And there was no psychologist or something, the government put on. So, in short, I was completely lost. And there was a lot of denial, etc. And I mean, I understood, so something is wrong. Maybe there's something which I should work up on. But this was so deep down, it was so much buried that I didn't have any access to it because it was just too hard to touch, right? And so I also had some therapy for behavior. I also went into psychoanalytics for 3 years, lying on the couch, literally, and talking about my own blah, 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 my own things without really getting a solution. And then I studied sports and health. That is what I just mentioned. And it happened that I had a client in personal training, and he was a trainer, a coach trainer. And then he observed what I did, how I handled people, etc. And he told me so many things he observed which I was not aware of. And then we started talking. So what are you doing? How do you know all these things, etc. And then we had a deal because I was working full time and I also studied, so there was not much money, etc. And he said, "Okay, here's the deal: you train me, and I will coach you." I said, "Okay, deal done." So, and then fast forward, so after I think 8-9 months, I was capable to heal myself, and with the help of him. And then I found out this is like, yes, this is actually it, and I didn't know that's existing, right? It was only about psychologists, to go to, and this is already, I think, we are talking 20 years ago in Germany. It was like not developed as it is today, and everybody has a coach, etc. So it was none of that. So I understood, okay, this is actually what people really need, and most of them maybe even don't know it. And that was actually the idea to become a life coach.
Wow, what an experience! I would say, um, a life felt, a heartfelt experience that you've shared in terms of, what you've gone through and you've come out of it, and you're in a space right now where you're helping so many people. I mean,
Yes.
hats off to you for such an amazing work that you're doing. Because being, all of us go through phases where we are, there are ups and downs that happen in our lives. And there are phases that we go through where we feel that we need help. A lot of us go through that. Sometimes it becomes very severe. Sometimes we're able to get ourselves out of that. But the kind of experience you've been through, and the support that you had to get over that negative experience you might have had, you've come a long way, I must say, from that space to coming to a place where you're supporting so many other people who could be actually in a spot where they are feeling lonely, or they want to bring in change in their lives, or they are in a space where they are needing help, if I have to put it in that way. So
Yeah.
thank you, Jasmine, for doing such an amazing work and adding so much of value to the world. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting inspiration that you have, the real life experiences that you had, which you brought into the book. And I'm sure it would be an amazing experience for people to read it, because I loved it personally. I know you shared the book with me. So, how is it that people today can get hold of your book?
How? Via Amazon. First of all, they can grab the opportunity to purchase it. And it's quite interesting because I said, you asked me, so why, how it come that I have written the book, and I wanted to actually reach the masses, because I think not everybody has that opportunity to come to coachings, to life coachings, because it's an investment, right? It's not just 10 rupees or something. It's not 350 rupees per session if you
Hmm.
have a professional coach. But you have this book, and this is exactly 350 rupees. And the idea is to get inspired. The idea is to be able to pick up your small next steps, your milestones. And that was the idea, because what I understood in my life was what kept me going, because I could have also said, okay, you know what, I had really bad company in this time, about um, something which is illegal, about drugs, etc. I came across a couple of things, and I could have gone also in this direction, but somehow I made it, and I thought, okay, I'm not using drugs, I'm not dealing with anything like that, I don't want to go in this direction at all. So maybe drinking alcohol, just figuring out, etc. So there was something, and I realized, okay, this was resilience, this was something which I had as a motive about my own sanity, about my well-being, etc. And this was my driving force. Not that I was really aware of this time, but I mean, this is something which you need to have, right? So some inspiration here and there, so which comes from inside, but also from outside. I read a couple of books. I went to some seminars. Drove some N kilometers. When I was 18, it's just getting my car, and I went to a couple of seminars, and I was investing actually in myself. So, and I think those gave me directions, plus a lot of humor, which also came along the way. And that's what I also wanted to put in the book, Change Me. So a little bit of humor here and there, because I mean, first of all, we learn through stories. And secondly, we like to, to have this humor, to laugh. Because of that, the world is actually a better place, and it's far easier to
Yeah.
do whatever needs to be done. So with a smiling face.
Yes, I know. I know in the book, it's all about the story that you're talking about, and how the guy, chooses to do what he's doing.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of humor, there's a lot of conversation that goes on in terms of what is going on in his mind and also what he talks to people. So it's an
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly. Yeah, it's always two different things, no? At least sometimes what we think and what we speak is
Yes.
sometimes different.
So true. So
Yeah.
Piyush is saying she's looking forward to an amazing conversation. Thank you, Piyush. Sanjay is also talking about that he finds the story very inspiring. Thank you, guys. Keep writing in your comments. Do ask us questions also. Jasmine is here and we'll help you solve whatever questions you might have for us as well. So thank you for writing in your comments as well. And as we keep moving ahead, another question that I have for you, Jasmine, is what are some principles that you're passionate about? Because you've been through so many things, so many experiences in your life, done, kind of different kinds of jobs, and now you're doing coachings. I'm sure there are certain principles that you hold close to you. So, what are those principles? Tell us more about that.
Principles. The principles, I think I believe in some cocktail. The principles of, I mean, couple of things. Like, I think first you should be able to lead yourself before you lead other people. I
Awesome.
mean, this is something in general, and we are not talking about a leadership by title, but a leadership because we are actually all leaders, right? And I mean, Robin Sharma said that, Tony Robbins said that. I mean, we all know that we are leaders with title or without title. And I think it always starts with yourself. So I believe in that self leadership, and the cocktail of discipline, and to ask actually, and to be guided. Sometimes, and I see there's so many times that people are reluctant to ask for help. They feel, I don't know, we say is very easily in India, people are shy to ask, but I think that's completely the wrong usage of this word. I think people appear, or they think they appear like, I don't know, something negative when they ask questions or they ask for help. Love and compassion, I think this is one principle, you can say, or one belief which I know, okay, this is what we all need. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all looking for love and acceptance. And I think that's going also when we come to leadership. As I have seen, in all your conversations, it's about leadership. And I think it's basically easy to lead other people. It's not really rocket science. And I think that's the cocktail I'm talking about, the principles. And I mean, there are so many things, the principles of, like, everything is possible. That's what I always believe, right? That's, I think, brought me to this point where I am today. And all the experiences are precious, not just learning what you learned in school. That's, one thing is like make a lot of experiences and learn from mistakes, and ideally learn from the mistakes of others. That's something which I have done when I went to an exhibition with my first booth to exhibit about Pilario. This is, the fitness regime I created. So I went to a course before I become an exhibitor, and I just learned for one day what to do, how to prepare my entire team, because I had 15 people with me, etc. And everybody was like, "Wow, this was your first exhibition." It's like, yeah, I was smart. I invested 500 euros, and I learned all these things from people's experiences, and what you should do or what you shouldn't do, etc. And I think one principle is about trust yourself and go with whatever you feel is right, and don't think what other might think. If I would have done that, I would have not just thrown that training away after halfway done when it comes to fashion design. So I think you have to also have the courage to say, okay, you know what, I'm done here, and I get out of here. And if I have a certificate or not, if people think like, oh, that's a stupid move, etc. So it doesn't, I think, really matter. And I tell this especially when I speak in universities, because those people are highly confused what they want to do in their life, to follow their advices by their parents, or to follow their own likes and dislikes, but they actually usually don't know what they want to do. And ideally I tell them, you know what, just go out and figure it out. And the parents might don't like that at the beginning, that I'm telling their kids, but this is basically it. I think you just have to have the trust in yourself, and of course in your kids. So sooner or later, Karuna, you also know this about your girl, no? When the time
Yeah.
is. But I think you have a couple of years until then.
I still have a couple of years to go, no doubt.
Sooner or
But I
later.
know parenting is a different ball game altogether, and a lot of
Yeah,
us in these times become very, very fussy about, and we want to do everything in that process. We end up sometimes impacting in a negative way a lot of aspects for a child as well. So of course
totally.
there's no right way of doing things, but to each on its own. But I think what it makes sense is that yes, if we do have some strong principles in life which we
Yeah.
hold on to, strong values in life, and we live by them, that helps us as the guiding force to continue in our lives. Amazing. So, by the way, thank you, Sanjay. And I think Jasmine would love this. He's just ordered a copy. Uh, and thank you so much, Sanjay, for sharing that with all of us. I'm sure you're going to love that, isn't it, Jasmine?
Totally. So, a lot of people told me after reading Change Me, is like, hey, Yasmin, how did you know this book is about me? There's like so many people told me that. So, okay, Sanjay, I wish you a great, happy reading.
So true. So, Jasmine, some we were talking about some principles. We are talking about some values that we all hold on to, and some that have helped you as to maneuver things in life. What are some certain mindfulness practices that have helped you in your life and career? Would you like to share a bit about that?
I would love to speak about that, because I think mindfulness is something which is the one of the most precious things which we have in the world, and I think most forgotten one as well these days. So I think I was really privileged to grow up in a environment where I were really mindful, and I was encouraged to be mindful. So earlier I misunderstood this as, saving money, etc. When we say, okay, switch off the light because it's very bright outside, etc. And I was wondering, so what the heck? Um, Stopping running water when you brush your teeth, right? All of these small things, it starts actually with these things when it comes to mindfulness. And of course, it goes in a big picture. But I think when you can't handle the small picture, so I think you will fail in the big run. And when we speak about mindfulness, I think if we all would be mindful in the world, I think this world would be a different place. Literally, just think through this. Nobody would litter. Nobody would just shout at another person because of anger of some complete different thing, venting it out, etc. I mean, it goes on. You can just name it, and I think we can just go back and we say, okay, this is maybe we were not mindful at this time. So, and I think some practice about mindfulness is really just to do whatever you do and you just put really all your 100% of awareness into this. If you drink tea, for example, what I just do. So for a second, I just really feel what I'm doing. If I'm speaking with you, I'm just, completely focused with you, speaking with you. And I think, yeah, usually I would have said, maybe a year ago. So yes, it's a lot of practice of meditation, etc. And I think this is a good help, but just that's not really life as such, right? We can't just say, oh, we have to be a little more mindful. Let's go back on the cushion, sit down, and just meditate. I think meditation is great, but I think it's not really the practice as such. I think the practice is just be aware of what you're doing and how you're doing it. So to make also choices. May it be how you handle your kids, may it be how you handle your employees, may it be, how you're treating your things, like, I mean, your cell phone or your pen or whatever. I'm not talking about attachment. I'm talking still about these things with, being detached, but being I think respectful and being mindful. So I think whatever you do, that's my best practice advice is just put your thoughts into this. Like Osho would say, do it totally. I like that. Totally.
Yeah, totally. Be immersed and present in that moment. I think that's what mindfulness is all about. If you look up for the definition as well, and it talks about the fact that being present in the moment. And one of the things I believe is that, many a times with the kind of work that we do as, in our age and time, a lot of us
Mhm.
are doing a lot of mental work.
Yeah.
And there are so many thoughts that come to us. There are so many things that we are deliberating on, related to work, related to family, money, so many things, job, business, all it's all so much cluttered in our head that at times you're not
Mhm.
able to choose that what is priority, what is not, and how do I kind of shift. And I think mindfulness gives us that space where we can make those choices being in the present. One of the things that have helped me personally is also the moment I feel that I'm too flustered, too much of thoughts coming to me, or I'm not able to make some decisions. I do feel that getting up and being in the present by physically getting active helps me become more present in the
Mhm.
moment.
I love that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe that, right? Coming from that background of fitness. So, I mean, people find me very strange when they see me working out, but they're really encouraged. They put up, the double weight as before, because when I'm working out, and I completely relate to what you're saying. When I work out, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to talk to anybody. It's just me, the body, and the weights. So it's like, this is like a unit, and this is also a form of meditation. And I think it's a great way to connect with yourself, to shut up and shut off, so to stop. And I think that's the most important thing, as you rightly said. So there's so many things, and I think also living in India, it's a different environment. It's a complete different scenario as you live in Germany or in the US, because still when you go out in India, so you have so many more information. And I'm talking even about emails and messages and social media. I'm talking about there are people, there's some stuff going on, there are some noises you hear. So there's, all of that is actually an information that the mind, the brain has to deal with, and that's not an easy thing. And yeah, everybody tells me it's like, no, no, we are Indians, we're used to it, like air pollution, but that's a different thing. We're used to it, so we don't hear these noises anymore, etc. And I don't believe that. Of course, you're used to it, but still, I mean, you have to all handle these things. You have to digest all this information. And I usually tell clients, my team members, everybody, actually friends, go on an information diet. Just go on a diet, right, of information, and be very specific of what information you really want to have. So, when people started working in my team, I told them, so why are you telling me that? So I don't need to know that. So please spare me with information which I can't help you with. If you need my help, tell me all the details, and I just, ask you a question that you figure it out on your own. But if I'm not required, I don't want to know. I don't need to know everything.
And I think Sanjay's question comes in at an apt time, where he feels that social media is responsible for not being so mindful, in his opinion, and change in emotions. So he wants our views on that.
Who is the culprit? We have a lot of opportunities. That's my answer. We have a lot of opportunities, and I think, I mean, it's very compelling. It's very seductive to say, "Oh yeah, okay, so let's just go on social media," rather than maybe doing nothing for 5 minutes. But I
Hmm.
think it's actually a great thing if you can utilize it in the right way. That means you have to manage yourself. It's not an easy thing. I wouldn't say that, because it's an addiction. It's like, cell phone is an addiction, smoking is an addiction, overeating, um, ordering books and books and books without reading it is an addiction, all of that. I think, Sanjay, my answer would be, I mean, I think it's just you. When you look outside, so who is the culprit? It's usually you. It's like always the others, right? Because it's easier. I don't mean you specifically. I'm just saying in general. I think I'm the one. I can't blame anybody if I'm really addicted to that cell phone. Always checking. So, oh, what's going on? What's going on? Do I have an email? Somebody likes my Instagram, or what's going on LinkedIn, or what all my friends are doing. And snooping. you know, I
Yeah,
think.
I think there is this word called as FOMO, fear of
Yeah.
missing out, that
Yes.
is over us, in terms of we want to know everybody what they're doing, where are they going, where are they traveling.
Exactly. That's actually the disease, the fear of missing out. So, which is, again, you just manage yourself. And I think there was one super simple trick or something you can manage for yourself, and I found this really, really good, albeit it's very trivial, very simple, is before you use your cell phone, just understand what is your mission right now. What is the thing you want to do? When I'm going on Instagram, I'm checking out first with myself, what do I want to do? And then if I find it's actually quite, not good, not usable, I just leave it. But I have to make a conscious decision. And I think that's maybe some tool people can use. And by the way, I always believe in that very simple, basic things. And a lot of people might find this, oh, that's very trivial. It has to be, more complicated, more fancy, and this and that. And I think that's also something, right? It has to be so complicated to reach. In order to get something, you have to give a lot, right? But it's not always there. So I think the simple things are always that stuff which is the basis, and the basis is the fundament to create an amazing building on it. And when your fundament is weak or slippery, or anything, so even the most amazing building will just collapse sooner or later. So, and I think when you take care of your fundament, you're almost halfway done already. So
Yeah.
basic is king or queen.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question, Sanjay.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. And if more people have more questions, do keep adding your comments, and we will love to answer your questions. So, going forward, I want to know a bit more about the topic that we have for today and your views on that, being the best version of yourself. So, what are those tips that you would like to give? Some we've already spoken, but more from that aspect.
So question is how to be your best self.
Yes, how to be the best version of yourself.
I do sometimes in coaching, and I think there's this technique which you also know is like creating and thinking of the perfect version of yourself. And that's somehow an illusion. But anyhow, it really helps, because sometimes we are really at our peak. We are amazing in what we do. We just nail it, right? So may it be in a conversation, may about the feeling about ourselves, the confidence, etc. So it's like sometimes it's just like amazing run, just being in the flow, and sometimes it's not, right? And I think when you think of the perfect version or the ideal version of yourself, hey, what would my perfect self do at this point of time with that question or that challenge? And then you just thinking of, and you're putting yourself, actually you're empowering yourself, and that I think helps in the best way, because it's first of all yours, it's your decision, it's you are capable to do that, and we all know, but sometimes we just stuck up in some ways, and we created obstacles, so we can't really go ahead, so we have to find different routes. And I think that's the idea, how to be at your utter best, or to be your perfect self. And I think being mindful is also good to reflect. And like every evening I tell people, please journal what was really excellent, being grateful for. And one question is, what would you change if you would have the chance to do that? And change happens actually with that, because when we are constantly busy, and I see people, they're busy all the time, even when they go for dinner with their loved ones, they are busy with their phones. I mean, where's a space to actually realize things, and just to be here and now? That's one thing. But also, when you go asleep and fall asleep, and before that you have your cell phone and checking what's going on, information without digesting. I mean, where's the scope that you can really improve if you don't give yourself time? So I think I have two videos actually on YouTube, so to declutter your life. And I think when we all live in that way of being very stingy with the things we add on, the information we have, the material things we add on, from cars to clothes to things on our desk in the office, etc. I think we would be more clear, and be able to focus more, basically, on the things which really matter. So giving yourself time to become your best self and to become better. Like what I say in Change Me, it's about baby steps. You just take one step at a time, and you're trying to reach the Mount Everest, in one go. How you
Yes.
go there? You just step, right? You take another step, and then eventually you reach.
Yeah. So while you
Yeah.
were talking, Jasmine, I was also thinking about this, that many a times where you were talking about reflecting about this question, that okay, I'm, let's say I am already the best version of myself, and in that situation, how would I react? Sometimes we don't
Okay.
even think of the best version of ourselves because we feel we don't deserve to be there. Sometimes we feel I'm not good enough. I am, so we make a not so perfect version of ourselves in a mind about our own selves. So, what to do about that? Are there some things that we can do about that as well? That we realize that actually we can be the best version of ourselves, and many of us actually don't realize their own complete true potential just because they felt they
Scared.
can't be the perfect version of themselves.
Yes, I love that. Absolutely, Karuna. And I actually didn't realize how many people feel they are not good enough. And I made this 3 episodes on YouTube about exactly that people are talking to themselves, with themselves, in such a negative way. They just put them down. They don't really trust themselves. Forget about self-love and respect, etc. The way we speak with ourselves, sometimes it's really devastating. It's really horrific, and you wouldn't actually talk to even anybody else like, where you talk with yourself. So this is something I came up with, because what I also saw in coaching is a lot of people, they really hesitate, and they put themselves into some limits, and they have boundaries. When I say, okay, close your eyes and just imagine your life is already as you want it to be, right? And it's just gorgeous. It's amazing. You reached, you're successful, you live in the way you want, you look like the way you want, you have an amazing partner if you want. Um, you're successful, you are an amazing leader, etc. And then people say, yeah. So, and I can sense is, okay, wait a minute, let's step one step, back.
Mm.
So how was it? I was like, okay. And it's like, oh my God, there are so many fences. It's just, whatever you can dare to dream is actually maybe 50%. So let's go and, put the volume full in, right? 100%. And it doesn't have to make any logical sense, etc. So what we have to do as coaches, right? What we do is to help people to get rid of their limits.
Yes.
And I think that's a really, really good point. I love that you bring this up. And
Yeah.
this is about not feeling good enough, not I didn't deserve it. That's also one. I'm not really, capable. This is about self-trust, about confidence, etc. And I mean, the good news is you also know that we can cure that, we can heal that, and it's a step-by-step process as well. When people, that's my tip, if I can say that. My tip is, okay, don't make it so big. If you don't dare, just think of something which could be a little better as now. So this is like law of attraction, so which I really like and I really believe in. So if it's too big, you feel like, oh my god, that's overwhelming, so you get scared, there's fear,
Mm,
etc. And then you just make it a little smaller so that you can digest it, you can
mm.
dare to dream about it, and it's again step by step.
Yeah,
So
interesting. And I think Gautam is also mentioning about that as well, where he's also sharing that he believes that many a times some of us hold ourselves back from being our best version, and there are reasons for that because I don't know, maybe it could be the childhood issues, it could be certain situations which have made us believe some things about ourselves from our past, but it is
hmm,
not necessary that what happened yesterday will happen today unless we continue to live in yesterday.
all
So,
that, but we're repeating, right? We're just repeating. This is like the long displays playing again and again until we interrupt it and disrupt it.
so
Yeah.
how to break that? How can we break that? So one tip you've talked about is don't think drastically best version, but you could just say okay, a little bit more better, and we start visualizing according to that. What else could be done?
See, the biggest root, the deepest one, where it comes from, is about unconditional love, which one didn't experience in childhood, and this can start even in the womb of the mother. There's the sense of basic trust, which is created within the first 2 years of being alive, and I think maybe even in the womb. And there are a couple of things. I mean, when you can do what you can do. So, I mean, now we can't go back in the childhood, right? And says, oh, but what you can do is that you feel, right, because unconditional love leads usually into the feeling for the kids like, hey, maybe something is wrong with me because I'm a loving person, but somehow I'm not treated like that. Maybe this is because of me, so I did something wrong. I have to be nicer, smarter, cuter, crying less, etc.
And we
And
become a people pleaser at times. We
yeah,
do
this
in that
leads usually into this. Yeah. And why? To be accepted. And earlier it was just about survival, right? So it's really about death and life. And as an infant, you don't have much choices, right? So they are the adults who have to take care of you. And if you cry a lot and you're, being ignored, and if you smile a lot, then you're, have a lot of attention. So these small kids, they are learning very fast, and because they want to survive. That's the only mission they have. And then later on, they just repeating this. So we are repeating this subconsciously until it comes up, and then it's one fine day we have to understand there was no unconditional love as such. There was always some condition to that, what we wanted to have, etc. Maybe good marks, etc. And once we break that, we have to give it to ourselves. So we are capable to love ourselves, and we are, enough for ourselves. And this is about acceptance. This is about to check in with our expectations, which we have maybe inherited by our parents. So when you have good marks, you're really a good girl or a good boy. And if not, no, you don't get an ice cream, you don't get attention, you don't get love, you're not getting patted or cuddled, etc. So we just have to realize that, and this is, as I said, it's a pattern, and you don't have to be loving, you have to, not giving people what they ask you to do, etc. And you're still an amazing person. You're gorgeous. You are great as you are, and not everybody has to love you. Not everybody has to accept you. I mean, who cares? I mean, you have to become your best friend. And that's actually the mission. So you have to, have that love and compassion for yourself. And this is enough. So there, as an adult, you're not a kid anymore, and you can't ask that from your partner. So this is a lot of stuff going on in many relationships, that people expect actually their partner to be like a parent, right? To get this one, which was missed in the childhood. It's very complex, but I think that's one thing which we can actually interrupt. and we have to. So, and another thing is about this comparison. So like people, how they are, and how we compare ourselves and talk ourselves down, or we uplift ourselves when we compare ourselves with others. So that's what I also mentioned in one of my videos. And then all these things are leading actually into this negative self-talk. I came up with this. It's an example how we learn to actually feel we are not okay. Like in a classroom, there are a lot of students, and the teacher asks a student. Earlier it was like, okay, stand up and tell me the answer, and the student doesn't know, and whole class is laughing because maybe it's a wrong answer, and this is a trauma, right? The kid is really traumatized and makes his own conclusion, and a belief is created in this way. It's like the teacher is not good, they're all idiots, or I hate that subject, or I just don't speak again anymore. So in case of I make a mistake, I just don't speak. I don't give an answer, etc. So a conclusion, and then this leads into a belief. So
Yeah, interesting.
all
I think
negative
it's pretty, so there are a lot of times and experiences that might impact our ways, personalities, our beliefs, etc. And Sanjay has a question where he's talking about, is this the best I can do? Self talk. So, if it is to do with personal upliftment, self
stuff.
talk, inner self talk is very important. But is it positive or negative? That would make the difference in your life, I believe, Sanjay. So, Jasmine, what is your view on this?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you create your life, your world accordingly. If it's this direction, negative, or is it this direction, positive? And you have to make a choice. You can't have both. And usually you have a tendency, and until you say, okay, you know what, I went into this negative stream, but somehow it's not really helping me, it's not serving me, so I better change the direction. So, and then you have to do a lot of conscious work until it gets also unconsciously that you just have this tendency into the positivity. And again, right, it sounds so basic. It's like self talk. This is all what I can do. That's the best. Yes. And when you master that, you made it. So the way you speak with yourself, you're compassionate. You speak in a nice way, in a respectful way with yourself. You are an amazing buddy to yourself, right? And you're like a compassionate friend also sometimes. If you need a hug, you just hug yourself, right? This is all we need sometimes. If you need a good advice, it's like, oh, Yasmin, that was not the greatest choice you could have made. You know what? Night reflection, that's what I mentioned. The next time if I would have the chance, maybe we do XYZ. Some constructive feedback. That's what you also have to give as a good friend, etc. So yes, it's really the best you can do to just change the direction and to become aware of your way of speaking with yourself. And by the way, this also reflects towards others. The way you speak with yourself is the way you speak with others. We know that, right, Karuna? And you can't hide how you speak with yourself. Everybody who knows gets to know, because the way you speak with others, you understand clearly what's going on inside you. If you're harsh to others, you're harsh to yourself. And the other way around, right? Talking about positivity. So,
Another thing that I've also experienced, and sometimes I talk to people about this, is that, when it comes to self talk, sometimes, if we are continuing to think in a certain way, there are two ways. First of all, we think one is our belief about our own self, and the other is our belief about what others think of ourselves. The other aspect is, many a times we ask this question when a situation has happened, and we do the self talk and we say, why did this happen to me? Why me? Why did this take place, and
mm,
stuff like that. Sometimes I do believe, and I've experienced this in my coaching also, that if we shift that mental question, rather than asking why this happened, what if we use the word what, and we say, okay, what could have
yeah,
been done to make it better, or what could have been done to have a different reality, I think it changes the perspective. And there was some research done in this space also, by one of the persons from Harvard, who talked about that, how changing the word, those switching to a different word could actually create a different, um, you know, way of thinking and progress in that space. So I think, Sanjay, that could also be a way to kind of build up on your self talk. And coming back to Jasmine, I think there is an amazing conversation that we're having here right now, and I'm just loving it. Tell us a bit more about, in terms of making, building your best version of ourselves. We sometimes hold ourselves, we don't even work towards visualizing the best versions of ourselves, and we just discussed about what could be some ways of breaking that and kind of building up towards at least moving in that direction, making it simple. um, what would your views be on people who are building up in their career, specifically people who are making a certain choice in their career, that what could they do to shift their perspective, specifically in these times when people are impacted?
So, in general, I would say I always encourage people to ask themselves questions. Well, what you said is like I can really relate to. So many people ask, why does this happen to me? And I thought at the beginning, I was really almost angry to hear, it's like, what a nonsense question. It's like, who cares why? I mean, it happens to you because you have something to do with it. I mean, life has thrown this at you for some reasons. So I think what you can really do or one can do is like how you're thinking and what questions you ask yourself. I mean, check what quality of questions you really ask yourself. This is exactly, so because not all questions are really smart questions, sorry to say. So the quality of question I think is so relevant. And I mean there are so many other things, about this best version of yourself is also about, apart from the self talk, is about, I think, to keep it simple and to keep it, minimalistic. I believe in minimalism completely, and especially in this time when we have so much. One example is when we had this COVID scenario lockdown and everybody jumped into webinars, and there was free webinars, like every hour could have been filled with webinars. It was like thrown at us. And this is also, and some people say, oh no, I have a webinar here and I have this one and this one. And people got so stressed out, physically they completely relaxed after so much of travel, etc. But, mentally it was like just on the run. It was like exhausting just listening to them. So as I said, less is more. That's really something about this FOMO. Oh, this is that. Oh, this is also interesting. This is also interesting. And I understand this mindset because I have a lot of curiosity, and I could, watch all day long YouTube videos, and especially, TEDx. But I mean, hey, come on. So I have to manage my mind, right? Otherwise I'm drowning in information. I have no understanding where I'm heading, in which direction, etc. So find out your why, right? It's like Simon Sinek. So what is your why? And then just go for something. If you have something in mind you would like to learn, just put your 100% and forget about the rest. Maybe you can note it down. And I think this is also how to be your best version, is to give yourself a chance and not just drowning in your all creative ideas and possibilities. That's also a disease, right? The possibilities, they are limitless. I don't know, we had this earlier when the TV was there were three channels, three. And after I think 11 o'clock at night, there was the War of Ains, right? It was just black and white, right? There was nothing finished. And we didn't have this, oh my God, okay, stay out a day later and I want to watch this movie, I want to watch that movie. I'm just talking about TV channels. So it was just like, okay, finished. There's the limit. And it's actually a blessing. So now we don't have any limits. So we have to create this for ourselves. So this is, I think, the biggest challenge we might have and still have with our cell phones, with our emails. Just name it and we have it, right? All this limitless gives us a lot of trouble unless we make a decision and say, you know what, that's a principle. Like I'm working for 9 hours. I have working hours. And afterwards is like, who cares? I also have other life, right? Well, as much as I love coaching, etc., and writing on my book and this and that, but I also need time to unwind. So when is enough enough? I can decide that. How is my capacity, etc. So you have to really manage yourself. And discipline gives freedom. That's what I always say. The more disciplined you are, the more freedom you have. So it's like always a big question mark. So are you crazy, Jasmin? What are you talking? It's like discipline. So how much freedom?
Absolutely loved it. And I think what you said in the last, discipline gives us more freedom. That was an aha moment for me. For me,
Mm.
that's what I do carry back from the session today, and of course, lots more. And before we end this session, I would love to get your feedback on Conversations with Karuna, your feedback on how are we running this show, and you know this that we build conscious careers, um, we build conscious cultures, and we build conscious leaders. So and we run this channel for people to listen to us and build their lives, and build up, learn from the wisdom of successful people. So your views on this channel before we end this session, and would love to have your feedback.
I love this channel. I love you. You're an amazing person, and your skills as a moderator are amazing because from this perspective of the mindset of coaching, etc. I think this helps you in moderating and asking the right questions, which can enhance the skills of the viewer, keeps people's questions out and get answers. And I think that it's more than maybe ever really important when it comes to leadership. I watched a couple of yours, for example with Anjali Singh, who works for Deutsche Bank. And it was quite interesting because she said after this COVID and lockdown, people work from home. It's a complete different scenario. So talking about that one, talking about for leaders, from leaders. So hey, what are the challenges of leaders, etc. So I think it's also a great place and platform to exchange, because as a leader you always have questions. As a leader you also don't know always what is the right thing, what is the wrong thing. It's an important place actually to exchange and learn from another. So I love it and I keep watching it. And
Thank
of
you.
course
Thank you.
now, yes, and it was really nice that you asked me to come on the show. So it was a great conversation with you.
We're loving it too. Aditya has some nice words to say to us, and so does Sapna. Thank you so much for your love, and thank you so much that you've been watching this session. We would love to hear more from you all. And thank you, Jasmine, for such an amazing time that we've had, sharing our views, sharing our conversation with everyone. Um, I look forward to many more such sessions.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to all your sessions which are coming up. So I will look forward to
Yes,
that.
yes. Keep
Yeah.
watching, guys. Every Thursday, we have some amazing people who come in and share their wisdom. Would
Watch
love
her.
to. Thank you. Thank you so much. And over for this week. And we'll be back again next Thursday with another amazing person to bring to you. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Thank you, everyone else, for watching it. Thank you. Bye bye for now.
Bye. Namaste. Ciao. Tschüss.